So what advice would you give to a budding nail artist in 2024? They're just coming into the industry. What would you say to them?
I'm going to keep on the theme with the pricing, figure out your
Mm,
costs, figure out your costs and have a direct, like, where do you want to be? And on a practical point, work on your foundation, not your nail art. Like, the nail art
mm.
will come and flow, like, the foundation is key.
Hello and welcome back to the Face It podcast. I'm your host, Jessica, and today we welcome a lovely new guest to the show. But of course, before we do, I just wanted to ask you to consider leaving us a review. If you are an Apple user, you can go to your podcast app on an Apple device, search for Face It podcast, and of course, write a review. You can just tap the stars, which rates us, but obviously leaving a few words really does help to boost our rankings. And the bigger the podcast get, then obviously the more amazing feature guests we can get on board the show. So thank you very much for those of you who already have. Don't forget you can rate, review and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts too. If you'd like the chance to come and chat to me about your experiences, share some of your industry stories and your expertise, then please let me know. You can find us on Instagram at FaceItPod or message me personally at Jess_Messenger. That's Messenger, MESSENGER. I'd love to speak with you about your businesses. But of course, for now, it is time to introduce our brand new guest today. So Zara from Cute But Deadly Nail Co. Welcome to the Face It podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on, Zara. I believe that you are our first tooth gem technician on this podcast, aside from myself, but obviously I'm not the interviewee. So welcome. I'm quite looking forward to discussing a bit of a different treatment, really. So I suppose how did you discover tooth gems? Let's roll right back.
I mean, right back. I was born in the 80s, so in the early 2000s, everyone was on that tooth gem train, getting them at the tan stand. That's when I first ever seen them. And then actually, someone used to do them in a nightclub I used to go to, and I just thought that was wild when I was like 16. Obviously, should not have been in the
Oh,
nightclub.
yeah, you
But
did
they were
well
good.
getting
They were,
involved then.
yeah, full white gear doing tooth james in this hard house club night. It was brilliant. Obviously not the way that we do it now.
No.
And then a couple of years ago, there was someone in Edinburgh doing tooth gems, but I seen that they were leaving Edinburgh, so I thought there's a gap in the market here. Tooth gems is a really similar process to how we do nails. And I
Mm,
thought, well, if no one else is doing it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to, from purely a business perspective, if I ever had nails takes hours and hours to do. So if I ever had like
mm,
a half hour gap, I could never fill it. So the
cool.
tooth jams was a great opportunity to fill those little gaps.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that, of course. So it's like dead time for you, really, isn't it? Because you can't
Yeah.
just whack like an eyebrow appointment or something in that half hour, 45-minute gap. So yeah, what a great little filler. We will come on to tooth gems and sort of the businessy side of it a little bit later on. But obviously, it is worth mentioning you are also a nail artist with 18 years experience, which is just like massive, Zara. So tell me about your beginnings in the world of nails. Like, how did that come about?
I was a hairdresser and I started getting my own nails done and I loved hip hop and R&B. I loved Friday. I loved the big ass nails. I just loved that whole look. So that's what really pushed me into becoming a nail tech. I used to go to this lovely lady, Julie, and I used to ask her to try all these things on me and it would freak her out. But I'd be like, please, please, I don't care if they only last one day. And that's where that all came from in the beginning. And then my love, like traditional tattoo art, I just kind of wanted to do that on nails. But this was back in 2005 where absolutely no
Mm.
one was getting nail art. A couple of flicks and dots, that was
Mm.
about it.
Yeah, I suppose you were like right at that beginning of that nail art trend, really, because you've been doing it so long. You've sort of seen that the difference in that because it really blew up, didn't it, a few years ago?
Yeah. I've seen from normal nail polish into the gel polish era, and
Mm,
it's changed so much because nail art is now wearable for longer because of gel polish. Um,
mm,
it doesn't come off, whereas before doing it with normal nail polish was an absolute nightmare.
I
You'd
can
have done
imagine.
this masterpiece, and your clients sit and wait and dry, and then you get shouted on. They're like, "Zara, I've smudged a nail." So
Oh.
yeah, gel polish has changed everything.
Do you think, though, kind of coming from, working with such a useless tool in a lot of ways, nail polish for nail art, do you think that that set you up to be a really good nail artist when the gel and stuff came about because you'd already done the hard bit first? So
Hundred
it's like
percent,
this was now a doddle for me because,
hundred
you know,
percent. It was a game changer. It was so
yeah,
good, so good. The only drawback was when this first, it was shellac that I first started using,
yeah.
and they only had like I don't know how many colours, like 20 colours or something.
Mm,
So you were just going between normal nail polish and gel, trying to get that balance so that it didn't peel off.
mm.
But yeah,
Yeah, I remember the shellac phase as well. You don't really hear people using that much anymore. Um,
no.
So, why did you decide to open Cute but Deadly Nail Co. then? And what year was that you decided to open the business?
Well, I decided at the end of 2019 that I wanted to open a business. I actually I decided to work from home for a couple of years so that I can have my dogs and be at home with them. And then I just decided it's time to get back into a salon. And
Mm,
I had someone working in my house with me one day a week. And I thought, oh, like we could do this like together. Um, I could be your mentor. That would be
yeah.
great. It's like COVID happened. So
Yes.
the business, I still went ahead. I still powered through. To be honest, it was a bit of a silver lining for me. I don't know how I
Mm.
would have done it if I didn't have the time from COVID.
That's so funny
The
that you say that
lockdowns.
because I had the exact same thoughts the other day about a previous business of mine. And I honestly think it got me through COVID. I think that actually was the purpose of that business in a really weird way. Ask me a year ago, I wouldn't have seen it like that. But now, in hindsight, I think that it did so much for my mental health to sort of be able to focus on
That's
something.
where I first discovered you. Actually, was that business.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think now, like hindsight's a wonderful thing. It's like I think that did wonders for me to be able to just be in my own little hole, focusing on my own
Yes,
thing. I don't feel COVID impacted me in ways it impacted other people, other businesses. So I have a very fond memory of that time, versus obviously some of the tragedy that a lot of other people have about that time. So it's a very strange one for me, actually, COVID.
yeah, I totally agree.
Mm,
I started making press-ons over COVID, and it actually raised some money for me to help open the business as well.
mm,
Um, and it upped my level of nail art because I was just sitting
yeah,
constant press-ons.
order.
I was so scared at that time that I don't know how I was going to survive. So day
Mm,
three, the press-ons, I was like, let's go. I need to make money somehow, and it
yeah.
actually funded some of my business. Sadly, the person that was going to come and work with me never ended up coming because obviously this was a huge upheaval. Going
Yeah,
to a brand new self-employment during a pandemic. But actually, there's definitely it's really bittersweet. A lot of, like you say, tragedies there, but a lot of silver linings for me and Cuba Deadly.
yeah. I think you have to find them, don't you? If you can. And it's interesting that you mentioned the press on nails because we did have another nail artist a couple of weeks back who also defaulted to doing the press on sort of around the same time, and it was like, you had to sort of invent in that moment. It was
Oh
either
yeah,
sink or swim, wasn't it, for a lot of businesses that were, service based. It was sink or swim and find your way. So did you find that press on sort of blew up for you during that time? And
yeah,
has that helped you with retaining more clients since? Do you think you've gained some more clients since then because of
yeah.
those?
I definitely got a whole new clientele because of the press-ons.
Yeah,
My only a few of my regular clients bought press-ons from me. Obviously, they had all had their nails done when we went into the lockdown, so they still had nails on for a long time. But it was actually people from loads of other places and spaces that were buying press-ons from me. But it was great, and then it meant when the salon opened, they actually a lot of them came to the salon after
yeah.
having bought press-ons. The one thing I do miss from that time is the amount of connection I could have with people online.
Mm.
Obviously, now we're back to the rat race. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
and like we're just go go go. I've not got time to sit and chat with
No.
people online now. It's like go go. You got this. You got that. So I kind of miss that as well.
Mm.
That wee bit of connection I had with a lot of people.
Yeah, it was. It was very much a community spirit
Yeah,
vibe, wasn't it? I think,
yeah,
sort of in the online service or product space, I think for a lot of us that got many of us through it was building those new connections and with our clients and customers, and other business owners as
yeah,
well. So, and like you say, I think that fed that machine. It was right at the beginning of TikTok sort of really blowing up as well. You know, Instagram just seemed to go wild. I remember at the time I'd only need to post a photo and I'd get 5,000, 6,000 likes
yeah.
on a photo.
Because
Yeah.
everyone's just sitting at home looking at their
Yeah.
phones, eh?
And
Yeah,
now, I
that's
mean,
what it
can you
was.
imagine? I'd feel like I'd gone viral now if that happened.
Yeah, it's very different now.
Mm.
There's definitely some bits I wish we could go back to. Having more
So,
time, I suppose.
yeah. So how has working in nails changed over the years then? Obviously we've mentioned a couple of different products and stuff like that, but what's the key things that you've noticed change over the past 18 years?
Tools. The tools have leveled up.
Mm,
My God, we used to just use a metal pusher and a file and a buffer. That was
mm,
really it. And your acrylic, your liquid, your powder, and some nail polishes. Now we are talking like we've got the e-file, we've got bits. I must have over 50 bits, and I use
mm,
the same one all the time. But I keep going, oh, that bit looks better. I'll use that bit. I'll try that for a while. And obviously your bits run out. They get blunt, so you need to replace them. So yeah, the tools, the obviously the marketing now, the social media. When I started, there was no social media. You're just waiting by a phone, seven like in the morning
yeah,
until night, waiting
yeah.
on a
That
client to
call.
call up. There was
Mm,
no we never took booking fees or deposits.
yeah.
So if it was a sunny day, at least three out of your five clients wouldn't show up.
Wow.
It's so different now. For the
Yeah.
better, for sure.
Absolutely. It's interesting as well. That kind of leads me on to one of my next questions, actually. You know, when you've said about the tools and the amount of tools that you need now and all the different parts that you'll need to replace, you know, were you taking part in the recent nail movement, which was this, for those listening who don't work in the industry, it was a sort of a national call to increase nail technician prices across the UK. And this is part of it because obviously nail technicians are very much known for undercharging in their services. And like you've just said, your investment now is way higher than it ever has been. So did you
Oh,
take
so
part in
much
that? And
higher.
can you remember what the name of it was? Because my apologies, it's not my industry.
It was a National Nail Tech price increase day, and that was it started off with the Nail Tech org who started that, which
Mm, that was it.
amazing.
Mm,
Um, it's, we never took part in that day because 2 years ago I actually started using Bosher Salon's calculator
mm,
and had a huge shock, like massive. It turned out I was paying for people to get their nails done.
yeah.
The salon, I was actually putting money towards the nails,
Mm,
because silly me, I never checked my figures and numbers. So from 2 years ago, when I actually we opened our own physical salon, just purely cute but deadly, I started using the calculator and checking out the costs, and now every year I revise, check the costs of everything,
Mm,
and we have a price increase yearly. I probably should do it every 2 years, but usually it is yearly. Um,
mm,
I'm not going to say, oh yes, I've got perfect pricing. My prices still aren't where they probably should be according to
mm.
the calculator. But we're definitely on the road there, and I hope that we can inspire others. I really wanted to inspire other people in Edinburgh to really don't look at what next door's charging, check out
Yeah,
costs.
absolutely.
Because you could be like me, you probably have been like me, and you've been actually putting money towards people's nails for years, or just working yourself to the bone, 10 till 10, to
Mm.
fit in loads of people so that you can make that money.
This is the problem, isn't it? That, a lot of people kind of give the advice of just look what other people are charging in your area. And I always say to people, don't have a look so
Mm.
you understand the general going rate, fine. But don't base your prices off theirs because you have no idea how they've worked those figures out. They may have done what you did for 15 years, which was basically just not really look at their costs, you know.
That's what I was doing.
And if everybody's looking at each other and they're all going off that initial price because that person didn't look at their costs, well, all of you in the same area are working to a completely made up figure that isn't realistic. And also, everybody has different overheads. Your overheads, owning your own salon are going to be completely different to someone who works out of a home. And, someone who just pays chair rent. So you take it as a baseline so that you understand your competition, fine. But I think
Hmm.
you've got to be very, very careful at basing your rate just purely off what everyone in your area is setting. So that's really good advice. And just to kind of touch on what you mentioned there, you mentioned Bosch Your Salon, who we have booked on the show. She is coming
Oh,
on in a
yay.
week or so's time. I'm so very, very excited for that episode. That's Maddie Cook. So you can download, I think it's a downloadable. Is it, Zara?
Yeah, the
To keep your eye out
calculator's
for that.
downloadable.
It's very, very good. I will pop it in the show notes. I will also make sure that we talk about it in depth with Maddie when she comes on the podcast, and we'll get that in there as well. So thanks for mentioning it. How has Scotland then received tooth gems as a treatment? So we'll bring it over from nails into tooth gems. Has it gained popularity since you've introduced them a couple of years back?
Oh, definitely. I've definitely noticed a difference in the amount of people booking in for it now. Obviously, I found it a wee bit hard because my day was quite fully booked with nails, so I've had to make adjustments to be able
Yeah,
to house the tooth gems. It's definitely more an impulsive decision for people. So I find that
I
people
agree.
want to book it like 2 days before, not like my nail
Yeah,
clients who book a year in advance.
yeah.
But yeah, it's growing. It's definitely growing now. I do a lot of pop ups and stuff. And people, again, they're at a pop up, they're there, they want to spend money. They're like, oh, let's get a tooth gem, that'll be fun. And I'm like, yes, let's get a tooth gem.
That's it. I think it is more of a impulse decision. I get a lot of bookings that come in like, day before, same
Yeah.
day sometimes. So I think, like you said, you've gone from running a very, very tight ship with your scheduling to make sure everyone can get their nails in. And then you suddenly have to become a little bit flexible in areas so that you can
Yeah.
accommodate. And certainly I've sort of found keeping my diary open and accessible as much as I can has really helped with getting those bookings in. So how did you find your training in tooth gems? Did you just sort of do a bit of a Google search once you decided this is what I want to do? Was it like, let's just try and find how the hell do I do this and how do I do it properly?
Yeah, well, I actually had a colleague that was working with us who wanted to do it, but then kind of was like holding back from doing it. And I was like, listen, if you're not doing it, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So, and she actually had already done the research to where you could do it,
Oh,
and then ended
brilliant.
up doing it after me anyway. So it was all good. So yeah, I trained with Crystal Canine, and yeah, the training was great. Um, and now, yeah, I'm just bashing on, doing my own thing. I like things to be a bit extra, so really just trying to entice people to get more designs. Like I'm sure I've seen yourself. You're like, come get some more gems. Like, when's that done?
It's true. It's a bit addictive. It's like tattoos in that sense.
Yeah.
What was your first concern with going into a niche this size? Obviously, you've got a combined business model, so and I
Yeah.
would say that that's a need. I think a lot of the time, was
Yeah.
it a bit of a concern with it being quite niche?
Um, for me, I'm gonna say no because I do put anything that I do like that. I just hammer it and I just get right into it. I'll push it in people's faces as much as I can, to make it work.
Mm,
So I wasn't too concerned about going into it. I just thought, you know what? What's the worst that could happen?
yeah,
No one gets them. I've got
yeah,
another skill. Like, yeah,
yeah. I think this is it. It's quite difficult in terms of marketing, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people, it's like any service. You get it with PMU as well. You sort of get sold the dream in a sense that you'll just make loads of money straight away, and then it suddenly dawns on people once they've got the certification or the qualification that actually, oh, it can take quite a while to build
yeah,
a name or a business for yourself. And I have seen a few technicians over the past year or so drop off, which I think is a real shame, because I think all it comes down to is them knowing how to market, and doing a good job of their marketing, because people, especially with a niche service, there aren't going to be masses of people punching it into Google looking for tooth gems, so you've got to be really quite savvy about, like you say, pushing it in people's faces and letting them know that the service is there.
yeah. Just totally letting them know that it's a thing, that there's these celebrities doing it, and that if you want to be like them, if you want to look like that, this is a thing that you can also have, and it doesn't cost the earth either. Once you've got it, you've got it.
Yeah, 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 that's totally right. And what do you love most about a service like Teeth Gems then? How is it different to the other services?
It's quick. It's so quick. I love it.
Mm,
And the smiles that come from people when they see their new tooth jobs is amazing, because it's so quick, but it's such a huge difference for people. My
yeah,
favourite part is when I get someone that says to me, I don't like I've never really liked my teeth, they're crooked, but
yeah.
I'm not willing to get anything done to them, so I'm going to make a feature out of them. And I'm like, yes, let's make a feature out of your teeth. That's brilliant. And then they go away like loving them.
Yeah, I love that. I know what you mean when they sort of say I never used to like smiling, but now I
Yeah,
do. And you
yeah,
wouldn't think drawing, because this is the thing. I think people think it's the complete opposite. You would think drawing attention to the problem area would be the last thing you would want when you're not happy with it. But actually,
it
hasn't it?
deflects.
Oh, it does. It completely deflects away from the problem area because it's sparkly and shiny and it captures like people's attention in a positive way.
Yeah,
So it does
yeah,
flip the script a little bit, I find, with Tooth Gems, which is really nice. And that is the feedback I get quite a bit as well. Um, so we both know that the markup on Tooth Gems is significant and it is worth mentioning versus most other treatments.
yeah,
However, like all the industries, as treatment gains popularity, it can sometimes get dragged into a bit of a price war, especially locally if there are a number of services. And you can find that prices begin to drop. We've seen this in aesthetics, particularly with fillers and things like that. It's now quite challenging to charge higher prices because of that. Do you have any thoughts on it? Is it a concern for you, or are you just whatever?
I,
I'll just crack on.
at the moment, do you know what? I'm just cracking on, and again, just touching on my prices are what I need for costs.
Mm,
There's not loads of people doing it in Edinburgh. There's a lot of people doing it in Glasgow, but I just feel like if everyone is on the same page, because otherwise it will go to pot, like nail services have,
mm,
um, where you're finding that everyone has just is fighting each other, and doing similar prices, just cutting each other off, going
mm,
cheaper. It's not something I'm concerned about. I'll ride the wave till it's still going, definitely for sure. I have to admit though, I do myself, because I do want to do more designs. I do find myself price dropping a lot to
mm,
entice people into the designs.
mm.
Um, but more stuff like singles, doubles, your general stuff, I would drop the price from.
Mm. Yeah, this is it. I mean, you've got to do model days and stuff, haven't you, to try and get people to do more designs. And I definitely do the same thing. You know, if there's something that I want to try out, then of
Yeah,
course add a model price on or something like that. But I think, like you say, it's your general services that you offer all of the time. It's trying to avoid dropping
yeah.
those prices as much as possible, because it kind of has a ripple effect across the whole industry. And as we know, tooth gems on the whole are definitely becoming more popular. We're seeing
Mhm.
them in popular culture a lot more now, which is great for us. But then it entices more people into the industry and into training, and exactly the same as aesthetics. You know, we've just seen that
Mhm.
massive uptake over the past sort of 5 years. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with gems, really. Tooth gems is quite an unruly, sometimes clicky, sometimes a bit brutal world to navigate, depending what circles you're in. Have you had any negative experiences? We don't obviously do names or anything on the podcast, but has there been a time where you've had to fend someone off?
Yes, not that long ago, I had
Oh,
someone
really?
come for me in a video that I had posted. And
Wow.
I felt like usually now, because I've been on Instagram for so long now, I have had a
Mm.
few incidents, shall we say. And so now I would normally not, I would try to just ignore it, delete the comment. But I kind of wanted people to see this comment because they
Mm.
were saying, "Oh, what you're doing is wrong. It's illegal." And I came back at them and said, "It's actually not. We're just applying them. We're not removing them." And they came back. They kept coming back at me, and then
Wow.
eventually that person sent me a private message saying, um, "Would you like me to take down my comment now? I have re-educated myself on this matter." And I thought, "No,
Wow.
the
Can
comment
you
there, so everybody can see."
And can you say that on the post, please? Because,
'Cause
like, that would have been better for them to actually just post that
I
on the actual
know,
post. There's no good
no
sending me a
sorry.
DM.
Yeah, not even a sorry to have wasted all your time on your Sunday. And I was quite clear, like you're kind of oh, I can't think of the word. This is a small business. The time I've
Mm,
taken out to reply to your comments, to be nice to you, to say actually you're wrong, I'm right.
mm,
And it was like I say, a few comments back and forth, and I had to go through the whole spiel. And I thought, I'm
mm.
never going to meet you in my life. Why am I even bothering? But I wanted
Yeah.
people to see, no, this isn't a harmful service done
Mm.
properly. It's actually fine. So yeah, that's one that I've had. I've not had any others, luckily.
But yeah, no, I think we've all had some sort of negative experience. I think no matter what industry you're in, there's always going to be someone, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's I must have completely missed that, Zara. I must have completely missed that update from you. So I was completely unaware of it. Actually, it's not why I asked you. You might have thought I've seen it, and that's why I've asked. I genuinely hadn't.
No, I'd rather keep these things quiet if I'm really honest. But then I
Yeah.
did post up my stories, so I didn't keep it that quiet.
Yeah, but you did the right thing, I think. It's because it's misinformation, isn't it? So,
Yeah, it's
sometimes it's good.
harmful
It
to
is.
to a
It's
small business.
misinformation. Yeah, that's it. And I think we should probably touch on that a little bit, actually, because I was going to come into sort of the debate. There's a medic versus non-medic debate in the world of aesthetics, and there's a similar sort of issue in the world of tooth gems, really, with the sort of tooth gem technician versus the dentistry side of things. So I'm just going to preface this point with the fact that the General Dental Council have ruled tooth gems as superficial and therefore not practicing dentistry, and that's come directly from the General Dental Council themselves. So anyone that is on here that is within dentistry, that's working as nurses or dentists, they are perfectly legal to do. They are not classified the way that tooth whitening was back in 2014. So just prefacing this point. But obviously that gets lost a lot of the time. And sometimes you will get clinicians that do think it is practicing dentistry, and it can be quite difficult to back your corner with that, can't it? I think sometimes. And that's the concern of a lot of technicians. I'm quite fortunate in the sense that I come from a dental background. So, I worked in dentistry for 7 years. So for me, I can kind of have those conversations with clinicians and get on their wavelength. I know how they sort of work. But I would imagine with not having that background, it would be pretty intimidating, I think, to have a dental professional making those comments either to me, to my clients, or on my posts. I would be quite overwhelmed by that, I think, especially if they're misinformed and don't have the right information. Have you ever had anything like that happen, or have you been quite lucky in that respect and you've not had
Oh,
to have that?
I've never had that. I've actually had the opposite. I've had dentists say that I've done a really good job. They've told my clients that, and then my clients have came and told me that.
Mm.
And my own hygienist, oh, she's great. Like when I've not got lots on just now. I've only got a bit of gold on now. But when I go in, I'm like full grills because I wanted to see what she would say.
Mm.
And she's like, "Oh, what have we got on today, Zara?" And she just flicks them off, and it's easy peasy. Um, so I've luckily none of my clients have told me they've ever had a hard time or anything. And I've also got a friend who's a um not hygienist. It's in between a dentist and a hygienist.
Dental therapist.
Dental therapist, who
Mm.
now I can actually recommend to people if anyone was to have any issue with getting them off at their dentist.
Mm.
So no, I've been very lucky in that respect. Everyone, all the dentists have been great. I feel like I've heard of it. It's more dental assistants.
Mm.
I've heard more people saying that a dental assistant said to them, "You shouldn't have that on your teeth."
Mm. I think again
Um,
maybe because they're a little bit misinformed, and I think there's this
yeah,
idea that you can't physically touch the teeth or do anything in the mouth if you are not a dental professional, and
yeah.
it's not the case. But I suppose it's our job to then reinform, and like you say, you've had that comment recently on that post of yours where you had to take the opportunity to just make sure that the misinformation isn't spread. But yeah, it's similar in the world of aesthetics. There is that sort of medic non-medic debate there. And it's just keeping that professionalism, isn't it, when you're dealing with that, I suppose.
Hmm.
um we'll bring it on to then. What is your one bugbear about either industry, whether it's nails, whether it's teeth gems? Do you have something in the industry that irritates you, maybe?
I've got two for nails actually. My one is
Ooh.
everything that we've been talking about with the pricing. Um, where I see people saying, "I've raised my prices." I mean, I don't know their position, so I actually shouldn't comment. But they've like went from £20 to £22, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" That's a wee bugbear for me. And also, people not reading information on the booking system.
Yeah.
It drives me mad. I've spent all that time writing all this information out, so
Yeah.
you have to be able to book the right thing. And I know it's really complicated. Like nail jargon is so complicated because there's so many different words and brands. But I've tried to make it as clear as
Yeah.
day on our booking system, and people don't read things.
No.
Like
No, they
they'll
really
come in
don't.
ask for our normal nail polish, and we've clearly got we don't use normal nail polish. We use gel polish, which I have written on. Stuff like that drives me a bit wild.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I've had it in every business. I get it a little bit less in this one actually, but my previous one, it was an absolute nightmare. It didn't matter how many ways I would, say if I had an announcement or a process or something, it didn't matter if I put it on stories, in an email bulletin, on the website, on the product listing, and on a fact page. You could bet your bottom dollar people would still not have read it. I could have put
Do you
it
know
in every
what?
single place.
I am laughing because I actually emailed you saying I'm just checking if my order's on its way. And it was written clearly there, as clear as day.
Did
The
I send you the
technical computer
FAQ?
again.
Did I send you the FAQ?
Yeah, I think so. But it drives me as well.
You know what? That's hilarious. That's actually hilarious. I think that's my favourite moment on this podcast is having your bugbear and the customer who did that particular bugbear sat right there when you tell them how annoying it is. That's hilarious. Thanks for that, Zara. At least you owned up.
I'm like, I was younger then. I didn't read things.
You know what though? I bet you bottom dollar I've done it at some point as well, for sure. I will have. People have got busy lives, haven't they? They're not going to read every single last thing that you've wrote.
No.
But yeah, and I know exactly what you mean. And I think the other one for me, actually, going off your price list one, because I've got one, it's slightly different though. For me, it's people making a huge deal out of a price increase. You don't need to explain yourself. Like
Yeah,
I think if you've got regulars, fine. But I think a lot of times people make this massive, massive statement about how they've had to. I've seen it where they've done a whole carousel of like
yeah,
explaining all the in depth details. And I'm like, put it up. Just put it
yeah.
up. Like you don't need to give a play by play of exactly why you've made this decision. I think they're just very, very worried about upsetting their clients. But at the end of the day, if it's a business need, it's a business need. So yeah, I think the over explaining their price increase, it's just from a business point of view, don't do it, guys. You don't need to over explain yourselves. Get the job done, do it. And if people don't like it, they're not going to stay anyway, even if you have explained yourself.
That's it. You could put
Yeah,
up your prices, like your prices might go up 2 pence. Your prices could go up £30. The people that are going to stay are going to stay. The people that are going to leave over either of those increases. And
exactly.
it's just you. Do you know what? If people want to see your business stay open, that's just what has to happen. And it is a shame. The bigger you get, the more it costs.
Yeah,
The more
yeah.
costs come.
Exactly that. Yeah, it's when I mean we're talking about service on this podcast, of course, but the minute you've got yourself a premises or you've taken on staff or you've now become VAT registered because all of a sudden, you are now earning over the threshold. There's all these different things and it's like the price has to move with it. You
Yeah,
wouldn't quibble, you wouldn't argue Costa or Starbucks if they had to do the same thing. You'd have a
precisely.
whinge in the queue because you'd be like, bloody hell, that was 40p cheaper yesterday.
They'll
But
be going for your macchiato though.
yeah, you would accept the inevitable and probably still shop there because you can't go the day without your Costa or your Starbucks. So, it's the same thing for small businesses. It's a business need. I don't know anyone who puts up their prices just for the sake of putting them up as a small business. I don't know anyone. If anything, we don't do it often enough. We actually make things harder
It's
for
the,
ourselves.
it's the last thing that you want to do
Mm,
is ask people for money. Um, but it's the only way to keep surviving. And to build the life that you want as well, like you
yeah.
work so hard for.
Mm. This is it. I mean, just because you are turning over the VAT threshold or you're turning over, 50 grand a year or 100 grand a year, whatever it is, you're not taking that home. So,
No.
by the time all those costs have come out, you're
Yeah,
probably earning less than minimum wage
yeah.
sometimes. So I think there's this misconception around, businesses just raking it in. And that isn't the reality for majority of people that are running them. I talk to people all the time. A lot of people tend to reinvest back in their business. So they're, probably
Mhm.
being paid less than minimum wage. Whatever they did have spare is now being reinvested back in because they want to add a new service or they want to, do some more training or they want to add a new machine or whatever. There's reinvestment involved as well. So yeah, I think it's just resetting people's expectations of exactly what goes on within a business. We wish we were all coming out on that
Oh
salary.
my God, so that was coming out with what was on that paper. Wow.
I
Wow.
know. I know. I've had this comment to me not that long ago, which is why I've brought it up. Um, well, you must be making enough money because you run this business. Yes.
Like,
Would you like
why
to
do you
see the
think
bank
I'm
account?
running? Yeah, running 20 businesses and I offer a million services. Like,
Yeah, it's so true. So what advice would you give to a budding nail artist in 2024? They're just coming into the industry. What would you say to them?
I'm going to keep on the theme with the pricing, figure out your
Mm,
costs, figure out your costs and have a direct, like, where do you want to be? And on a practical point, work on your foundation, not your nail art. Like, the nail
mm,
art will come and flow, like, the foundation is key.
mm. Yeah, get your foundations down first before you
Yeah,
know, go
the
into
nail
the
art
nail art scene.
will come itself, but there's no point in having all this amazing nail art if your foundation's basically
Mm.
fucked.
If
Now
we've
it's
got
fair.
practitioners listening on here who have thought, tooth jams, that's interesting. I've never thought about that before. I've never seen it before. Any advice for them that are thinking about adding that service?
Oh, get into it. Don't do the
Mm,
course and then don't do it.
mm,
Like, get yourself out there. Really, like, yeah, just put yourself out there, make yourself seen, because it's the only way you're going to get that niche clientele.
mm. It's still relatively niche as well, which is a really nice thing
I
because
know. I'm sort of dreading the day. I'm like, oh, it'd be great if it's super mainstream, but then it will die. So I'm
yes.
like, oh, I just want to kind of keep it to the
And
cool
I,
people.
I don't think it's a bit like grills. I've sort of ventured into the grills arena as well. It's dental jewelry. I don't think will ever be mass mainstream. I think it will always be reserved for a certain kind of client that's got a certain kind of look, a certain um, lifestyle and aesthetic. So I honestly don't have that concern. I don't think it will ever be for the masses, which is nice. I think it is a nice add-on bolt-on service. I think it's quite tricky to make it a full-time service. Would you agree?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, 100%. I would definitely say it's an add-on service, unless you're going to venture into training, stuff like that.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
say add it on to one of your skills that you already do, skill stack,
yeah,
to fill in the gaps.
yeah. Absolutely. And as we mentioned earlier, we touched on the margins. The margins are probably the most healthy margins out of
Yeah,
any service that I know. And I'm
yeah,
just putting that out there. Out of any service I know that includes tattooing, it has the best markup at the moment. That may change as the popularity
yeah.
grows, but at the moment it really, really does. So, if it's a service you're looking at adding, then I will put our training academy who trained us in the show notes. Myself and Zara both trained at the same place. So I will pop that in the show notes for everybody if you're interested in getting that training done. So yeah, bringing it back to you then. Really, I suppose we're coming to the end of the episode. What's next for Cute but Deadly?
Oh, what's next? So I'm on a bit of a self-development journey myself, which is now like flowing through my business. So I'm doing
Mm,
lots of outsourcing.
nice.
Decided that I'm most happiest when I'm with my clients, doing the services, doing tooth gems. So yeah, we're doing a lot of outsourcing, getting people to help in the salon, social media manager. So I don't
Mm,
need to do it anymore, which is amazing. And lots of pop-ups. I just
nice.
try to spend the summer doing a lot of pop-ups. One of the other my colleagues, Linda, the nail fairy, has now started doing tooth gems too. So we're just trying to source like where can we pop up, and just really want to take the salon to the next level. Um, we do really well, like we're a very busy salon
Mm.
already, so I'm really grateful for that. But it's just now making it even more just better all the time,
Yeah,
making
leveling
everyone's
up.
experience better all the time.
Yeah, just taking it to that next level, like you say. Do you find pop-ups are a really lucrative side of doing tooth gems? Have you had quite a bit of success with doing those?
Depends on the pop up, depends on the crowd.
Mm.
Sometimes you need to really entice people into the seat, but once one person's in the seat and people see it, they're like, oh no, I will get that done. So we do the Scottish Tattoo Convention, which is great for us. And I work that alongside Bike Club comes along with us as well,
Yeah,
who's
shout out to Bike
amazing.
Club.
Yeah. So that's a really fun thing for us to do. And it's good just to get out the salon and get meeting new people as well. It's really fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's nice when you've got relationships with the other techs as well. And, like we mentioned earlier, it can be a little bit clicky. It can be a little bit of a tricky industry to sort of break into and make friendships. But I was quite lucky on the course. The group that we were in, we were all pretty good friends, really. We all got on really, really well. And we still
That's
keep in
brilliant.
touch to this day, which is really, really nice. We help one another if we need it. And obviously I've met a few of you guys as well, even just through the internet. And we just help one another and support one another. And I think that's really, really key. And I suppose my wish for the industry would be that it heads more in that direction. It leaves the competition behind and it heads more in that community direction, because I think that's more beneficial for everybody involved. So I
Yeah.
would like to see more of that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the industry is quite friendly like that. Actually, I feel like we're all really friendly, especially in Edinburgh. We're very friendly. A lot of salon owners, and it would be nice for the tooth gem industry to be the same. Which I feel
Mm,
like there's a lot of people I chat to that have done the same training as us as well.
mm.
But yeah, it's always just nice to meet new people and say hi online and whatnot when you've got time.
This is it. Yeah, I think you've just got to put out good vibes, and then you'll get
Yeah.
the good vibes back. I think that's the best way of putting it, isn't it? So Zara, where can our listeners find you then, online and in person?
You can find us in person on Easter Road in Edinburgh, iconic street. We're at number 30, Cuba Deadly. We've got a big snake on the window. She's beautiful. And you can find us online at cutebutdeadly.nailco on Instagram. My own Instagram is at cutebutdeadlyzara, and our website is .co.uk. Yes, it is.
That's great, Zara. Thank you so much for joining us today. You've been amazing. It's been really
Oh,
good to
thank
chat
you
to you
so much.
about. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, just chatting to you about something a bit different for our listeners today, which is really, really nice. And I'm sure it's probably sparked a few people off thinking that they could fill their gaps in their diary too,
Yeah,
with
fill your glass up.
a lucrative service. So, thank you very much for joining me, Zara. You've been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.